Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul, and I am a nerd, and you are lucky enough to be here for the May 2019 Tabs3 virtual user group meeting from Attorney Computer Systems. You got to think about those words and make sure you get them in the right order. Today, we are talking about three-way reconciliation. Mary Jo's going to take that topic, and I am going to be talking about Prebill tracking. And so now, without much further ado, I'm going to press all the right magic buttons to get us back to a place where Mary Jo can talk about three-way reconciliation.
Okay, so every time we do a bank reconciliation, you probably are all familiar with that. And we're in the trust account right now, so that's where we're doing this three-way reconciliation with trust accounts. I know that some states require us to go ahead and be able to not only say that our bank account is reconciled and that everything's in balance, but we also have to show that the ledger that we're keeping track of all the ins and outs, the activity is correct, and that our check register is correct. So everything is in order. And you would think that if one was right, they all would be right, but that's not always necessarily the case. There could be some things that are throwing that off. So this three-way reconciliation is a tool that can help make sure that all those things align, and then you can print that all in one report, and if you do have to submit that or do whatever you have to do for those guidelines, you can do that. So if we were to look at just a regular reconciliation, I'm going to go ahead and click on that real quick, and you were to start a reconciliation, and I'm going to go ahead and just start one on this particular account here, and I'm just going to say that's our balance, and if I finalize, I believe, even if I don't, I've got to get something out. Hold on, let me postpone that. I'm not seeing my whole screen again, so let me get back in here. Yeah, I thought you were going to fix that for me, Paul. What's going on?
Well, I just sighed heavily because I realized that I'd forgotten to that count.
That's okay. No worries. So I'm just going to see if I finalize, if it gives me the option here when I just have nothing checked. Generally, when we print, it does. So here's our little option. When you actually do a reconciliation, and I know it's there on a regular one. I was questioning whether if I didn't check anything off, if it would still show up, but it does. So you have an option right at the end of your reconciliation to print that three-way reconciliation report, which will then give you that report right there on the fly. So you can do that. You can say, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and preview it and preview that coming up for the three-way. And so here's my regular, let me get this over this way just a little bit, and you can see on my screen that we have the first part of this, which is our bank reconciliation. I'm sorry, the first part is our client trust ledger balances. So this is all of that activity and what the ledger says each trust account has. And we have a figure here. And then we have our reconciliations. We have our statement ending balance, and that will add in all of our outstandings and unpaid transactions and give us that. So that should still equal what the ledger says, because if we have all these outstandings added into our statement balance, that should equal what's actually in each of the trust accounts. And then we have our actual check register balance, which also then shows that same figure. Now, occasionally this can get out of alignment. Maybe the client ledger balance does not match our adjusted bank account balance, or our adjusted bank account balance does not match our check register balance. And so if that happens, then we have to start looking around and see why. And there are ways that you can do that so that you can make sure everything is in balance all the time. I believe one time I had somebody that had some kind of an entry out here dated in some weird date that was so far in the future that it couldn't be taken out. It was some weird fluky thing that got miskeyed or something. So, you know, there's lots of reasons that things can come out of balance. But this is something, it's a tool that you can use to do that. Now, I did this and I opened it right from a reconciliation. But if you forget and you're like, oh, I wanted to print that three-way reconciliation report, you can come up to the top of your screen and you can type in to search the action of three-way reconciliation. I've recently had it open, so it's down here in my recent items, and you can also pin it if you'd like. But I'm going to open the three-way reconciliation, and it's just going to ask me, you know, what bank account do I want to run it for? And I'm going to choose number 1. And it's also going to ask me a date. So whatever statements I have run out there, I can choose as of when I want to run that three-way reconciliation report. So I can even go back to the reconciliation prior to the last one. And then I'm going to go ahead, and you can even exclude zero balance trust without activity if you prefer. But if I say OK now, it's just going to give me that three-way reconciliation report later on. So you can print this at any time going forward after a reconciliation has been completed. Now, we can't do a three-way reconciliation report until we've done an actual reconciliation. So if you'll notice, if I come down to the bottom and get out of here and come back here, if I choose bank account number 2, or I'm sorry, 3 in our test data, and I look here, I have no statement dates to choose from. I've never done a reconciliation in this test data in bank account 3. So therefore, I can't run a three-way reconciliation because I don't have one of the pieces of the 3. So you need to have a reconciliation completed before you can run the three-way reconciliation report. Once you've got that done, you can go ahead and print this again, like I said, anytime, and make sure those things are in balance. Now, is it required? Do you have to do these? No, it's not required. It might be in your state. You have to look up your guidelines for your IOLTA accounts, but most states don't have that, I don't think, required. But there is this tool now that you can use to do that, rather than some clients I've had before this came out were doing it manually on spreadsheets and all kinds of other things. So that eliminates that for you. You can just print this simple report and let it show you what's going on.
Awesome. So it's really just a way to make sure that your ledgers and trusts match up with your bank account, and that the stuff you've got in tabs matches up with your bank account. Very good. Awesome. I am going to talk about something called the Prebill Tracker. And as the name implies, it's designed to allow you to track the prebills you've set, because we all know that if you print out prebills and put them in nice piles and give each attorney his or her pile to review, we all know that there's a pretty good chance that at least one or two of those bills is not going to make it back to you. And unless you're keeping track of this manually, there's not a good way to know what they didn't bring back to you. So this, among other things, this is an excellent way to monitor what you've given to the attorneys to review, and then keep track of what you've gotten back. And as you get them back and make changes and mark them as reviewed, then you can actually print final statements and update from here. So first things first, when you come into Prebill Tracker, a brand new system, it'll be blank. You haven't run any prebills yet. Now we can highlight all these records. Maybe I'm at the end of a period, I'm at the beginning of the next period, and I still have prebills stuck in there from last period. You can highlight these and hit the trash can and get rid of them. You're not deleting prebills, you're not deleting statements, you're not deleting anything except a record that says, hey, last month, Paul printed a prebill for this particular matter, and it's still in here. What this means then is that when you then go in and run draft statements or detailed work in process reports, they will, as long as you don't uncheck the box that says to fill in the Prebill Tracker, they will populate this. So when you go and print those draft statements and give them to the attorneys to review, you can then come back in here, you will see a line item for every matter that you printed a prebill for. Now, you can go into the options and you can say, okay, well, it's time to work on a certain attorney. So I'm going to actually say I want to work on Ron. What is Ron? Well, let's just say 2 through 2. I want to look at primary attorney 2 through 2. And what it does is it adjusts the list. If I go back into options and take that out and make it just 1 through, got to remember how high up I go here. There we go. Then I'll get the whole list. So for starters, I can look at the whole list, or I can look just at the attorney that I happen to be working on right now. So let's say that I'm working on Ron's bills. Go into options. I'm going to put in RPA, I believe his initials were. And so that's 3 through 3. These are the prebills that I printed for Ron. Now I've got a stack here, thankfully, of 3 bills that he's given back to me. And so I'm going to make some changes to the first one. And then when I'm done making those changes and I'm ready to print it out, I can mark it as reviewed. I click the little reviewed button while that bill is highlighted, and it puts a check in the R field. This next one, Ron told me he didn't want to bill this month, so I'm going to highlight it and I'm going to hit hold. And what you'll see is it puts a check in both columns. It has been reviewed, but it's also been marked to hold. The last one, he wants to bill that one too, so I'm going to mark that as reviewed after I make my changes. And now I know a couple of things. I know that I'm going to print 2 final bills. I know that I'm going to hold the matter for maintenance of insurance policies for Peterson Insurance. And I know that Ron's given me all his bills back. So I can stop bugging Ron about having not gotten certain bills back, and I can move on to somebody else. But before I do, I may want to use the final statements button to actually print final statements for that particular, those particular entries that I saw there. I'm not really going to do it, but having clicked that final statements button, you saw it took me into the generate final statements, and it knew that these were the 2 that it was printing, and it knew that it was not going to do a final bill for that one. If during the period that I am looking at maybe some more bills are being worked on for this same person in the background, I can always hit this refresh button right down here, and it'll just refresh. Maybe another draft bill got printed, and if so, it would appear as the 4th line item. I can print a report so that I can take it to Ron and say, these are the ones that I'm going to hold. These are the ones that I've made your corrections and are ready to be final billed. And here's a couple that you haven't given back to me yet. I know we don't have that example here, but it's the print report is a great way to go back to the attorney and say, hey, what about these 3? I didn't get these 3 back. This is also where reorder fees comes in. So if I had a bill that had some fees, like this one here, that this particular bill didn't have fees that appeared multiple on the same day. Let's see if this one does, just real quick. I'm not going to go into the detail on reorder fees, and this one doesn't either, but this is where it would be, and that just allows you to reorder fees that are on the same date, but maybe aren't showing up on the bill in the same order that you would want within that date. And that's new to Prebill Tracker, and that's where they decided to put that button. Another thing that's new to Prebill tracking since version 19, and maybe it was 18, I think it was 19, is that it's now multi-user, meaning before you could only have one person in Prebill tracking at a time. So if Mary Jo was working on her 2 attorneys' bills, and I wanted to get in there to work on my 3 attorneys' bills, then I would have to wait till Mary Jo got out. That's not true anymore. Multiple people can be in Prebill tracking all at the same time. And of course, the only other thing that would be here in options is batch numbers. That you can print batches of Prebills. I don't have many clients, or we don't have many clients that do that. And also whether you want to include or exclude reviewed, held, or final bills. So most people want to show everything in Prebill tracking so that they can see those that have been reviewed, those that have been held, and those that have been filed. And finally, when I do print those final statements, it will put the final statement's date here to indicate that it has been final billed. So when you're really, really all done, the R column is filled in and checked for every particular item on that Prebill tracking report, and the final has a date, a final bill printing date in each one that needs a final. The ones, of course, that are on hold wouldn't have a final date. Am I missing anything, Mary Jo?
Yeah, so once you have the final dates in there, the next step is you update your statements, and they fall off of Prebill tracking then. So that way you know that that's done. So
right.
This is a way for you to manage Prebills from start to finish and always know at any given time that a Prebill is either, still in draft form, you haven't done anything to it, it's been reviewed and finalized, or it's been updated, it no longer shows. And so the last thing you will see when you're done with your billing cycle, or what you should see, is just the Prebills that had been held with the 2 check marks. And at that point, you're just going to delete those for,
right.
just get them out because you're going to hold them until the next billing cycle.
Right.
If you accidentally delete a Prebill, you can simply just rerun one and it will repopulate the list. I do have clients that use batches quite frequently. Every time you run a group of Prebills, it gives it a new number. So you may run a batch of Prebills for attorney 1, and that might have the number 264. And then you might run a batch for attorney 2, and that would have 265, as opposed to you running all timekeepers and sorting by primary. Then they all would have the batch of 264 because you ran one batch of Prebills. So in any Prebill that you run in between, those batches that you run would have a different batch number as well. So you can sort by those batch numbers, or if multiple people are running pre-bills, they would have different batches. So you can use and sort by those batch numbers. That's helpful. So yeah, it's really a useful tool. A lot of people don't know about it that I've come across. Several do, and they're using it, and it does help streamline billing tremendously.
It really does.
I mean, it does speed things up and give you a place. And you can print that pre-bill tracking list if you scroll to the bottom. And my suggestion is print 2. You keep one and you put one on the stack that you give to the attorney, so that way when they hand them back and you don't have them all, you know exactly that what you gave them, and they know what they should have had to give you back. So
awesome. And that's that. Next month we're going to talk about a new AR as of a certain date report. Mary Jo's going to show that to you. And I'm going to talk about some data file integrity check enhancements that make it faster and a little bit easier to work with without kicking people out. And of course, we know it just wouldn't be the same if I didn't take you to our website and show you how to get back to all this wonderful content. So I'm going to open up a new browser window, and I'm going to go to attorneycomputersystems.com. Notice the emphasis on that last S in the word systems. Without it, you don't get to the right place. If you get to our website and then click on the video link, come on, we know you can do it. We've been having a little problem this afternoon with this loading, and we thought we had it all set, but maybe we don't. So if you click on that link, you'll be that video link, you'll be taken to a page that describes all 6 of our video titles. We have 4 live events. We have the 3 virtual user group meetings. You are in the Tabs virtual user group meeting. We also have one for Practice Master and one for World Docs. And the other live event is my Coffee Pot webinar series that where I take a product that adds value to one of our 3 core products, Practice Master Tabs or World Docs, and I invite somebody from that company to come on and show us how that product works, talk about its pricing, talk about how it integrates with one of the core products, the Tabs, Practice Master, or World Docs. That's my Coffee Pot webinar series. So these 4 are all live events. We also have 2 pre-recorded titles. Mary Jo has her eBytes video series where she takes something really cool that she can explain pretty quickly, usually in a minute or 2, and we record one of these each month for Tabs, one for Practice Master, and one for World Docs. Just something really cool that we know we can explain relatively quickly. And then for the longer things that take a little bit longer to get into and explain, maybe 10, 15, sometimes 20 minutes, we have our Paul and Mary Jo show where I or Mary Jo will take one topic each month from one of the 3 core products and explain it in great detail, kind of dig down deep into the nuts and bolts of whatever it is that we're talking about that particular month. Let me take you into the Tabs virtual user group meeting page just to show you what you'll find there. At the top, when it gets there, at the top we'll have a description of that particular title along with its name. Since it's a live event, you'll find a form to fill out your name and firm name and register for the next live event. And of course, a description of what the next live event is. And then as you scroll down, you'll find recorded versions of everything that we've ever done in that particular title since the beginning of time. So there are somewhere between 800 and 900 videos on our website, and we encourage you to browse through them, to use the search capability to search for something in particular that you're looking for. Whatever it is, use them. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They're there for you. They're absolutely free of charge. Everybody have a good rest of the day, a good rest of the month, and we will see you in June. Bye-bye, everybody.